Okay, good.
Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Welcome Prof. Joseph. مرحبا دكتورة نادية عبد الفتاح. مرحبا جميع الأخوة والأخوات معنا في هذه الأمسية الجديدة. المركز العراقي الأفريقي للدراسات الاستراتيجية يرحب بكم في برنامجه العلمي هذا والذي يتضمن إقامة العديد من الندوات وسلسلة المحاضرات العراقية. اليوم في هذه الأمسية من أقصى جنوب القارة الأفريقية البروف جوزيف شياسا، رئيس قسم المالية وإدارة المخاطر والبنوك في كلية العلوم الاقتصادية والإدارية في جامعة جنوب أفريقيا. سوف يتحدث لنا سعادة البروف محاضرة حول جدول أعمال الاتحاد الأفريقي وأجندة 2063. يتشرف المركز العراقي الأفريقي أيضا في نفس الوقت بأن تكون إدارة هذه المحاضرة من قبل الدكتورة نادية عبد الفتاح من أقصى شمال القارة الأفريقية، المدرس المساعد للعلوم السياسية، نائب مدير مركز الدراسات الاستراتيجية في كلية الدراسات العليا الأفريقية في جامعة القاهرة. مرة أخرى أجدد الترحيب بضيوفنا الكرام، ابتداء من أستاذنا البروف جوزيف من جامعة جنوب أفريقيا، وبالدكتورة نادية عبد الفتاح من كلية الدراسات العليا في الأفريقية في جامعة القاهرة. وأجدد الترحيب بكل من التحق بنا في هذه المحاضرة التي هي تعد المحاضرة الأولى باللغة الأجنبية من أجل إتاحة الفرصة والمجال لجميع الباحثين العرب والأفارقة باستضافة النخب العلمية في القارة الأفريقية وباللغات الأجنبية. لا أريد أن أطيل على حضراتكم، أترك المايك إلى جناب الدكتورة نادية عبد الفتاح مرحبا بها ومسلما لها إدارة هذه المحاضرة. تفضلي دكتورة على الرحب والسعة.
شكرا جزيلا لحضرتك يا دكتور. انا هقول بس جملتين باللغه العربيه وبعد كده هبدا الترحيب والتقديم.
نعم.
ابتدي اقدم للبروفيسور ولموضوع المحاضره وهدي بريف سيره ذاتيه مختصره لسيادته، وبعد كده هسلم حضرته المايك علشان يبتدي يلقي علينا المحاضره بتاعت حضرته اللي هتكون مقسمه الى 3 أو 4 اجزاء، بينهم بريك خفيف او استراحه خفيفه لنتمكن من التعقيب على اهم النقاط اللي تمت اثارتها، علشان نتيح الامر للمتابعين من انهم يكتبوا او يسجلوا الملاحظات والتعقيبات او المداخلات المطلوبه لحين انتهاء العرض، وبعد كده نبتدي نفتح الباب للمداخلات. هبدا دلوقتي البرزنتيشن الخاص بينا باللغه الانجليزيه. Professors, Excellencies, honored guests, welcome to the occasion of the 5th lecture of African Iraqi Center for Strategic Studies. It's a great pleasure to be a part of this event, which is, I am proud to say, it's a good step to accelerate the cooperations between the African scholars and Iraqi ones. It's my pleasure and the personal privilege to welcome and thank His Excellencies Professor Dr. Hashim Al-Awadi, the President and Manager of the Iraqi Center, and Dr. Farida Bendari. Sincere thanks and greeting for this honor. So I'd like to express my sincere thanks and my greetings to the generous invitation of the Iraqi Center to manage the proceedings of these 5th lectures, with my wishes for further process and success. This lecture series is our responding to our collective needs in order to reflect the challenges are facing our African continent and Iraqi country, especially after the COVID-19 and its consequences in the political and social and culture aspect. So I found this is an important initiative from the Iraqi Center in order to cover this important aspects. Before introducing Professor Joseph Chisasa, I'd like to touch briefly an important points I'm asking him to cover in depth. The COVID-19 affecting the intra-African relations and how it's affecting the international African relations. It's given me a great pleasure to introduce Professor Joseph Chisasa. Professor Chisasa is associate professor in UNESA, the Department of Finance, Risk Management, Banking. His PhD was in 2015. His research interests are in the credit, risk management, banking, and development finance. He is presenting papers both locally and internationally dealing with the agriculture finance. Wishing 2 awards for best paper in this process. As a part of his community engagement activities, Professor Chisasa has developed and facilitated many workshops across South Africa and outside South Africa as the title of the UNESA. He is still committed to the transformation of the agenda of the South Africa through acknowledgement transfer. Now, Dr. Chisasa, as Dr. Hashim Lawadi said, will now give us a lecture titled Implication of the COVID-19 Pandemic on African Union Agenda 2063, Rethinking the First 10 Years Implementation Plan. All of us are here looking forward to hearing the thoughts of Professor Chisasa regarding these topics, and I'm looking forward to engage with him in a conversation about the major challenges facing the African Union Agenda, the ambitious African Union Agenda 2033. So now I'm giving the microphone to Professor Chisasa in order to start giving us this privileged lecture. So Professor, did you hear me?
Yes, I heard you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. And thanks very much for the extensive introduction that raises so many expectations from the audience. yeah, I appreciate that. So, yeah, can I get started?
Yes.
Okay, so must I project the presentation from my side?
Prof. Joseph, a lot of thanks for you, Dr. Nadia and Prof. Joseph. Welcome now. You can start for. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, brilliant.
Good luck for you.
Hello? Hello?
We are waiting.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to be requesting you to move the slides as we go on. Thank you. So, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting me to this presentation. Again, my name is Joseph Chisasa. I am with the University of South Africa, where I am a lecturer and head of Department for Finance, Risk Management, and Banking. Today, I'm going to speak to you about the implication of the COVID-19 on the African Union Agenda 2063, and specifically, I'm going to focus on the first 10-year implementation plan. I think for those of you who have interacted with the Africa Union Agenda 2063 framework, you will know that it is an extensive framework which cannot be discussed in only 1 hour or 1 day or 1 year for that matter. That's why you see that it is, today we're talking about a 10-year implementation plan. That speaks a lot about what it is and what it entails. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief a background, or rather a background of what prompted me to speak about this particular topic. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic is the topic of the day. There are no solutions to the problem at this moment, and everybody is grappling, looking for answers to questions that have been, that COVID-19 does pose to all of us. Can you please go back to the structure of the presentation? Thank you. The second slide, please. Slide number, yes, that one, yeah. So you will see from the structure of the presentation that I'm going to give a short background, then also the objectives of the lecture, and then I'll give you some highlights of what the Agenda 2063 is about, and the challenges that Africa is encountering and has always been encountering for many years. And then I'll also, because this paper speaks to the first 10-year plan, I'll give an outline of what that plan entails, and before going in to discuss the status of the COVID-19 in Africa, and obviously then look at what it has done to Africa and the 10-year implementation plan. And I'll conclude by extending a few of what I think are reasonable recommendations that perhaps can be discussed further beyond today's lecture. Then we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so you will know that Africa is home to approximately 1.3 billion people, which represents about 17% of the global population. And of the 43 countries which are defined as low income and food deficient actually in Africa. So you see our contribution to the food deficient statistics in the world is very bad, because that's actually 50%, which should worry everybody. What that means is that the number of undernourished people has escalated dramatically. It means that people who are not having food on the table every day is actually increasing. And I think it goes also without saying that it relates to the ever-growing population of the continent and the world. Now, today we are talking of the African Union, which is actually an organization that is born out of the Organization of African Union in 2013, when it changed from OAU to AU. So when that happened, the focus shifts from decolonization to the development of Africa, because the OAU was primarily focusing on the decolonization of Africa as a whole. But after the liberalization or the independence of South Africa, which I think was the last African country on the continent to be freed, the organization shifted its focus from decolonization to the development of the continent. But of course, that came. That means that the new African Union had to deal with the multiplicity of challenges that before COVID-19 were there, and as new ones were also cropping up, they became an additional baby for the African Union. And I think the advent of the COVID-19 has not made life even better for African Union and the member states. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the purpose of this presentation is to determine the effect of COVID-19 on the implementation of the African Union Agenda 2063's first 10-year plan. I think what I can say is that that when the plan was formulated, nobody saw the COVID-19 pandemic coming, but the reality is that we have it now. and it has to be dealt with. And how then does it speak to the 10-year plan that did not factor in this particular pandemic? So this is what we're going to be talking about in the next couple of, perhaps an hour or less, and then to try and make some recommendations there deriving from this discussion. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I cannot see the heading on the slide. Can you move it a little bit? Yeah, a little bit up, because I only see 3 bullets. I think there's a little more further up. I think what is happening here is that this slide speaks to the aspirations of the African Union. In fact, the member states of Africa. The question is, why do we have the Africa Union Agenda 2063? This document actually seeks to it spells out what Africa as a continent aspires to achieve for its people. So in a nutshell, Africa aspires to be a prosperous continent, inclusive of growth and sustainable development. So, as you will know, that Africa is lagging behind the rest of the world in terms of economic growth and development. The African Union Commission and its member states seek to achieve that growth that is not present. And then, in addition to that, I think one of the other aspirations is to become an integrated continent, which is politically united based on the ideals of Pan-Africanism and the vision of Africa's Renaissance. And then the next aspiration is to be an Africa of good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law, and also to become a peaceful and secure Africa. And I'm sure we are all familiar with these debilitating challenges that we have lived with, I think for most of us, since we were born, or since before we were born. And to this day, most of these challenges, or most of these aspirations, we identify them with the problems that we encounter in our day-to-day lives. Can we have the next slide, please?
Okay.
I cannot see the move up, please.
Up. Text proof?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay.
No, on the same slide. On the same slide. Can you please move it a little bit up?
6 or 7?
On slide 6.
6. Okay.
Yeah, slide 6. Yeah.
Okay, bro.
Okay. So yeah. Yes, I think this we're still speaking about the aspirations of the African Union, or the African member states of the African Union. They would like to see in Africa. Sorry, can you please move your cursor? Yeah, in Africa with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, values, and ethics. I think there was a request that I speak also about cultural issues in this particular lecture. You will see that it has resonance with the African Union 7 aspirations. And you have moved too fast. But another aspiration is that we want to see an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential offered by African people, especially its women and youth, and caring for children. And finally, we also want to see an Africa as a strong, united, resilient, and influential global player and partner. And this for me is very important, because not only do we want to see Africa become an influential player, but to become a leading player in global economics and global politics and everything else. Now, slide 7, please.
Okay.
I would like to see the. Okay, so this slide, I think this slide is now about Africa's challenges. You will know that the Africa Union Agenda 2063 would not have been anything anybody's business if Africa was living all large and good, you know. But Africa is been inundated by a multiplicity of challenges, just like any other continent. Because our focus here is on those challenges that besiege Africa. Now, some of them include the fact that there are issues around the basic right of people to the food they need. I think this is a very fundamental issue that if people do not have access to food, then we as a continent or as a people have failed. In 1996, the head of state undertook to cut this undernourishment by 2015, and 1996 to 2015, that's about 9 years, 10 years, thereabout, and 2015 is since gone by, and one asks the question whether we have been able to halve the undernourishment. Half of Africa's population, in fact, we reduced the number of people with undernourishment by half this far. I'm not sure. I don't know, but I doubt. We still grapple with hunger and hunger-related issues to this day. To date, hunger is widespread and pronounced. Hunger is compounded by many significant political, social, and environmental constraints. And these are some of the issues that are contained in the African Union Agenda 2063 and the plan thereof to resolve them. Slide number 8, please.
Okay, waste.
Sorry, say again.
Sorry, Prof. Okay.
Slide number 8.
8. Okay, Prof. 8.
Yeah. I was also informed that after about 6 slides, I must stop for some discussion. Is that still the arrangement? Okay, I shall proceed. Here are some of the challenges that are being experienced by Africa. To the south of Africa, and I think elsewhere in Africa, we have experienced many natural disasters that include the cyclones in Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe that actually ravaged all the infrastructure, leaving people without food. All the floods that we have either read about or watched on TV have actually been, I think, become a characteristic of the African climate, because not only has it happened once or twice, but we've witnessed a couple of cyclones across Africa. And then we also have issues around disease control. Diseases such as Ebola, TB, and malaria have become a permanent feature or a common feature on the African continent. And we have been able to contain them here and there, but they remain part of what we have to deal with year in, year out. We also have issues around the institutions that are weak, and finally, we also dealing with problems around human capital development, and this is something that we need to really put a lot of our energies on. Slide number 9, please.
Okay.
A little upwards. Okay. very quickly on the in financial services, we find that most of our people are in informal businesses and do struggle a lot to access finance for their businesses. And this is another area that year in, year out, a lot of business people, a lot of scholars, a lot of social commentators speak to, but we still remain with this particular problem on the table. And again, linked to that, our financial markets are actually fragmented, and this means that we have got financial institutions that serve the formally constituted businesses, and very few formal institutions that want to serve informal businesses like small enterprises, micro enterprises for that matter. So these are some of the challenges that I can put on the table. This is just a snapshot. There are a lot more challenges that Africa is exposed to at this moment. So I shall request the next slide, please.
If you please, Dr. Joseph.
Yes.
May I have a chance to translate what you mentioned in the previous part of the lecture, and after that we will proceed concerning the first year's plan of the agenda?
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. I will translate what you mentioned, the key notes of what you mentioned, and after that I'll give you the microphone in order to proceed about the first 10-year plan. Okay?
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very generous. Thank you very much. دكتور جوزيف مشكورا بدأ في البداية وفقا لعرض هيكل المحاضرة اللي بين أيادي حضراتكم بالحديث عن خلفية أو إطار عام لشكل القارة الإفريقية من الستينيات حتى وقتنا الحالي كنوع من الأساس اللي بنبني عليه ماذا يمثل كوفيد 19 أو تمثل الكورونا في العلاقات الأفريقية حاليا. هل هي تمثل تحدي أم أنها جزء من التحديات التي اعتادت القارة على التعامل معها؟ فالدكتور مشكورا بدأ في عرض شكل طبيعة الحياة الاجتماعية والحياة الاقتصادية والحياة السياسية في القارة الإفريقية، تحدث عن أحلام القارة الإفريقية بالاتحاد الافريقي وما قبله من منظمة الوحدة الافريقية، من الدعوة إلى الوحدة الإفريقية والنهضة بالدول الإفريقية وتنمية الدول الإفريقية واستغلال مواردها. عرض أيضا الدكتور للإمكانيات المتاحة في القارة الإفريقية وكيف أن القارة الإفريقية بها من المواد الخام وبها من الأراضي وبها من الناحية الديموغرافية أو الناحية السكانية من الإمكانيات الواعدة، إلا أنها حتى وقتنا الحالي بتمثل تحديات في كيفية استثمارها. الدكتور يعبر كما نعبر نحن عن رغبته في أن القارة الإفريقية تستغل مثل هذه الثروات سواء كانت من الناحية الاقتصادية أو الناحية السياسية أو الناحية الاجتماعية في رسم مستقبل أفضل للقارة الإفريقية. ولكن هناك عديد من التحديات تواجه القارة الإفريقية. على سبيل المثال مما عرضه دكتور جوزيف في العرض الخاص به ما تمثل في مثلا على سبيل المثال تحديات هيكلة الاقتصاد الإفريقي. لأن الاقتصاد الإفريقي ما زال اقتصادا معيشيا يعتمد على فكرة المواد الخام فقط وليست المواد المصنعة، ومن ثم هذا بيعد نوع من أنواع البدائية في الاعتماد وبيجعل القارة الإفريقية عرضة لتقلبات الأسعار. أيضا تحدث الدكتور على عقبات أو مشكلات الوحدة الإفريقية سواء كانت على صعيد الاعتبارات السياسية أو على صعيد المتطلبات الخاصة بتحقيق هذا الحلم. أيضا تحدث على التحديات اللي بتواجه القارة الإفريقية على صعيد تحقيق السلم والأمن، علاج المشكلات البيئية المختلفة، وتحدث عن فكرة معاناة بعض المناطق من الظروف الجغرافية والظروف الطبيعية المختلفة، وكيف أن الاتحاد الإفريقي كان طموحا في رسمه لخططه للوجه مثل هذه التحديات والعمل على علاجها. فالدكتور يضع ثنائية ما بين الفرص والتحديات وتسكن فيروس كورونا أو كوفيد 19 في إطار التحديات اللي بتواجهها تواجهها القارة الإفريقية. انتقل الدكتور بعد هذا الاستعراض للشكل العام لطبيعة القارة الإفريقية منذ الستينات وكل الآباء الأفارقة الأوائل بالوحدة الإفريقية وبالنمو لقارتنا الإفريقية، إلى الحديث عن الخطة الطموحة للاتحاد الإفريقي والمرحلة الأولى أو ال10 سنوات الأول من 2014 ل 2023 بتطبيق الخطة الطموحة للاتحاد الإفريقي. دكتور جوزيف, please proceed. We are listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll have the presentation back on the screen,
Yeah.
please.
Dr. Farida, please. Bring the presentation to the front window. نعاود مرة تانية العرض التقديمي لدكتور جوزيف. احنا توقفنا عند سلايد رقم 10. هنبدأ بال Yes, doctor.
Okay, thank you very much. I shall now proceed from here, and as you will see, I'm now presenting to you the first 10-year plan, which is based on aspiration number 1. I think I indicated to you that there are 7 aspirations of the that make up the Agenda 2063, and I am not going to be discussing all of them because they are just too many. As you can see also from this table that we are projecting, that each aspiration translates into priorities. It translates into goals and strategies for implementing that particular aspiration. So that would actually take us the whole of today and tomorrow, for that matter, to complete a discussion on that. But I'll just give you a snapshot of what is involved in this in the plan. Can you please go up a bit to the first part of the slide, on the same slide, please, on slide 10. Can you please move it up a bit? Hello? Yeah.
ممكن
No.
تجيبي بداية السلايدز رقم 10 البداية من فوق.
Slide
10.
عايزة 10.
No.
أيوه.
Slide 10.
أيوه.
10.
التايتل بتاعها.
That's 11. 10. Yeah. Then move it a little bit down.
11 or 10,
Yeah.
bro. 10.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Brilliant. Okay. So under aspiration number 10 is fine. 10 is okay. Yeah. So priority area number 1, which is the first item on aspiration number 1, speaks to incomes, jobs, and decent work. In other words, African people would want their governments to create incomes, to create jobs and decent work that obviously generate those incomes that we want for our livelihood, you know. So that is what is contained in the Africa Union Agenda 2063 as part of what must be done in the first 10 years. So what's the target for that? The target for that would be to increase per capita income by at least 30%. A couple of targets. Also to reduce 2013 unemployment rate by at least 25%, reduce youth and women unemployment rate by 2% per annum, and reduce underemployment rate by 50%. So those are the targets that were set in 2013. And bear in mind that we are now in 2019, and we are now in 2020, and we are talking of a 10-year plan that runs through to 2023. Okay, so in order to achieve these targets, on the right, on the right column, the far right column, you see that those are some of the strategies that Africa proposes to employ in order to achieve that. For instance, promotion of cooperatives that will then facilitate access to finance by the poor people. And then in addition to that, to develop policies that will enhance free movement of people and workers. And finally, to promote policies that will lead to wealth creation and ensure that wealth is evenly spread to all citizens. I think these are some of the things that we are all familiar with. We are all, for the fact that we are all citizens of this continent, we experience these challenges, we experience these expectations from the people that we live with, and from ourselves as citizens in our individual capacities. So that this is what we say, 10 years, in the 10-year plan, would this be achievable or not? So we explore that further as we move to the next slide. Can I have the next slide, please?
Okay. 11.
I see we are on slide 11. Hold on to that. Priority area 2 speaks to the to poverty, inequality, and hunger. You see that in Africa, I think we are also unfortunately home to many poor people, many hungry people, and Africa is characterized by extreme inequality across society, something that is actually worrying, and something that we still look around for solutions for. So the targets for that would be as conceptualized by the heads of state of African governments, is to reduce the 2013 levels of poverty by at least 30%. I would like you to take note of the fact that we're referring to 2013 here because the Africa Union Agenda 2063 was actually crafted in was conceptualized in 2013. And in 2013 is when the Africa Union, in its old form as the Organization of African Unity, attained 50 years of existence. So in that particular year, the Africa Union, the Organization of Africa Union, was actually celebrating its 50th anniversary. And of course, the birth of the Africa Union as the OAU fell by the wayside. So we will continue to make reference to the 2013 because this Agenda 2063 framework is a framework that it's a 50-year framework that starts from 2013 up to 2063. So that's the whole reason why I'm making intermittent reference to the year 2013. So from this framework, the AU seeks to improve the 2013 Gini coefficient. You moved a little fast. If you could go back a bit to 11, please. 11.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you see that we again on the right hand side. On the right hand side, we've got the strategies for the implementation of this plan in order to achieve the targets that are set up that are presented in the middle column. So those particular strategies would include, for instance, to put in place food and nutritional programs for the vulnerable groups. Vulnerable groups would refer to people like children, women, disabled people, and so forth and so on. In addition to that, we need to promote policies that will lead to wealth creation and ensure that it is evenly spread to all citizens. I think that if we achieve, especially this part of creating wealth and then spreading it evenly across our people, that would be fantastic. Can we please move to the next slide? Thank you.
Okay.
Brilliant. Move a little. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Now, from aspiration number 1, you will see that that's the structure that all the 7 aspirations take. That there are targets and then the strategies for achieving those particular targets. So it goes on and on until aspiration number 7, which I did not capture in this particular presentation in the interest of time. So I only limited my presentation to aspiration number 1 for illustrative purposes. But in addition to what I've already alluded to as part of the first 10-year plan, there are 10 mega projects that were identified that would be implemented by the African Union, or that the African Union sought to implement. I've just picked on 6 of them so that you see the magnitude of the enthusiasm of the member states of the African Union. For instance, Africa aspires for an integrated high-speed train network. It was also envisaged that by by the end of the 10-year period, which is 2023, Africa would have a virtual e-university, and that we would have achieved a continental free trade area, and that Africa would have an African passport and free movement of people. Essentially, which means that people would be able to move from one country to another without any need for a visa, as is the present situation. Or at least if one has to get a visa, it would be at the port of entry without having to apply for a visa before leaving the country of origin. And then there's also the Grand Inga Dam project, and finally the silencing of the guns across Africa. These are 6 of the 10 mega projects that were mooted by the African Union as propounded by the member states of the organization. Please move to the next slide. Okay. This far, I've shared with you the background of where Africa comes from being a colonial continent to its freedom, with the last country being liberated in 1994 being South Africa, and then the conversion of the Organization of African Unity to the African Union, which is the present governing body of the African continent, so to speak. And I've also shared with you the snapshots of the African Union Agenda 2063 and the first 10-year plan of that particular framework. Now, in all of those aspirations that I have shared with you, and the 10 projects that were put on the table for implementation in the first 10-year plan, suddenly here comes this unwelcome visitor, the coronavirus, dubbed COVID-19, and what does it do? It spreads across the whole world, and little did we know that sooner or later it would be right here with us in Africa. When it all started, you will agree with me that most of us thought that this is one of those disturbances that will end up there in the European and Western countries, so to speak. But the reality is that we're now home to COVID-19 and we have to deal with it. So what has it done to Africa? In this slide and the next one, I share with you the top 5 COVID infected countries and the bottom 5 countries. Can I please have the first one? The top one, the slide 18, please. So you will see that in Africa, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Algeria, and Cameroon are the top 5 countries that have got COVID-19 cases. Sadly, as I broadcast to you from South Africa, we are the log leaders, if you want to speak in sporting terms. We are the log leaders, unfortunately, with 250,687 cases. In fact, that number has since been surpassed I think we are now just under 294,000 because this data was put together as of the 8th of July, about a week ago now. So you also notice that the number of South Africa's contribution alone to Africa's COVID cases is approximately 56.92%, which is quite significant. In other words, yeah, 56.92%. In other words, it carries more than 50% of more than half of the continent's COVID cases, and as you know, equally so, the number of deaths sits at 3,860, which is quite an ugly statistic. And finally, the number of active cases now, after accounting for the recovered cases, South Africa sits on 128,000, or just above that, if we take into account the most recent statistics. And again, next to South Africa is Nigeria and Ghana, which are more or less much smaller than South Africa. It's actually very worrying. Those numbers are very worrying, because I think they only started ballooning in the recent past, perhaps in the last 2 to 3 weeks. What has happened, we don't know. If we can move to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Thank you. What is also interesting is that it's not all gloomy for Africa, because we have got countries that are at least hanging in there and managing. Countries like Burundi, Eritrea, Lesotho, Seychelles, the Gambia. I hope you are all familiar with these countries and where they are. These countries have got still have very low numbers. But this is nothing to give them so much comfort, because we have seen this already, that number of COVID cases begin slowly, and they kind of have a compounding effect, because before you know it, the 64 cases in Gambia suddenly are 64,000. Before you know it, the 100 cases in the Seychelles are actually 100,000 cases. We saw it with Spanish, with the Italians, with the British. When they were in their 30s, as in 30,000s. In South Africa, we're sitting at somewhere below 1,000 cases, and we never imagined ourselves, escalating to those numbers. Where we are now, I think we are now 10th in the whole world. You come to think of it, South Africa is actually home to about 58 million people, and is 25 in terms of population in the world. So 25 million in the world, number 25 in the world in terms of population, and number 10 in the world in terms of COVID cases. That's quite scary. So that's where we are at this moment, and I would like to urge all of us to keep watching these statistics and have a lot of interest in them, and translate them into domestic interpretations and actions, so that we can curb this particular pandemic. Can we move to the next slide, please?
Okay.
A little up. Yeah, I think this is pretty much what speaks to. This slide speaks to the two slides that I was addressing earlier on. But I think if you look at the first bullet there, it shows that most of the people that have been reported to be COVID-19 positive are actually below or equal to the age of 60 years in age, and represent about 88% of them. And so you will see again that South Africa represents a greater chunk of Africa's cases, and about 22 countries actually doubled their cases, which is actually not something really one can go to bed with. Now, having said that, how have countries responded to the COVID-19 pandemic under these hard circumstances or hard conditions? I deliberately decided to pick on South Africa because it is home to more than 50% of the entire African continent's cases. So from a representativity point of view, in numbers terms, I think it's a good representation of the population of Africa, insofar as the number of cases known to Africa is concerned. And please, can you move to the next slide? Thank you. And so if we look at how South Africa has responded to the COVID-19 pandemic, oh my God, what happened? Oh, okay, sorry. Excuse me, I thought my laptop had run out of battery, but I'm fine. If we look at the implications of the COVID-19 pandemic on Africa, you will see that as the numbers rise, the number of cases rise, they pose a threat to the status of the health system on the continent. A lot of financial resources, a lot of non-financial resources have to be diverted towards supporting the health system, which is actually the case right now. So what it means is that we need to equip and protect health workers, and that for all of us is fundamental and central. We also need to provide with key equipment, medical equipment, such as oxygen concentrates, the gene expert diagnostic machines, the protective personal equipment, popularly known as the PPEs, and also to train our health workers to deal with this particular pandemic. I think you will know that all countries would have been sitting with certain numbers of medical staff based on their estimated respective capacities. But we have now a situation where everybody potentially wakes up a patient, yet the number of medical personnel is inelastic. It doesn't grow as quickly as the number of patients of the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's a difficult situation that we find ourselves in. And I'm aware that some countries are actually home to medical doctors and other medical practitioners from other countries. For instance, in South Africa, we've got doctors that came all the way from Cuba to come and support the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. So those are some of the disturbances that have actually been caused by the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic. Things that we as we put together the Africa Union Agenda 2063 10-year plan, would not have factored in. Of course, we would have been familiar with diseases such as tuberculosis, diseases such as malaria, diseases such as Ebola, but this one caught us off guard because it spreads like wildfire. And so to contain it takes such a sheer brilliance and something outside this world. Can you move to the next slide, please?
Okay, Prof.
Okay, next. Yes, this one. Okay. Shall I proceed? Okay. What we see there in this slide, I discuss how the African economy has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So most, if not all countries declared the COVID-19 pandemic a national disaster, and that as a result of that, they introduced the lockdowns where people were not allowed to get out of their houses to go to work. Business came to a standstill except for those that offer essential services. I think we are all familiar with this. But all of that translates to some economic implications, which modelers have estimated that will result in a decline of 2.1% minimum up to minus 5.1% in sub-Saharan Africa during this particular year, 2020. And so,
please, Doctor, give us a chance to understand and taking all of this valuable information, and you will take a break in order to have some fresh till I translate the valuable information that you are presenting to us. Thank you, please.
Thank you.
Can you take water, Prof. Joseph?
Sorry? Water?
Can you take water?
It's very cold here. I'm gonna do a cup of coffee.
Okay. من كتر ما المحاضرة زي ما حضراتكم متابعين ممتعة، أطلقت العنان لدكتور جوزيف علشان خاطر يكمل الحديث والشجون الخاصة بالعمل الافريقي. الدكتور جوزيف انتقل في النقطة الثانية للحديث على الأجندة الطموحة اللي قدمت لأفريقيا الخاصة ب 2063، وتحدث على إنه كانت فيها ذكر مصطلح طموحات وامان خاصه بمعدلات المعيشه، خاصه بالصحه، خاصه بالتعليم، خاصه باسكات البنادق، خاصه بالتحول الديمقراطي، خاصه بحقوق المراه والطفل، ولكنه ذكر انه مش هيستعرض كل الاثار اللي ممكن تكون حصلت في ال10 سنوات دي لكافه المحاور المختلفه. هو قسمهم ل7 محاور، وقال انه هيتعرض فقط لبعض اهم المحاور اللي تاثرت بالوباء الخاص بالكورونا. تحدث عن الهدف الخاص بالفقر والعداله ومحاربه الجوع في القاره الافريقيه، وذكر او قال انه كان الطموح او الغرض هو فكره مخفض معدلات الفقر سنه 2013 بنسبه 30% على الاقل. ده احد نماذج ازاي انه كان بيتم وضع الامر ده بشكل طموح جدا، وما تحقق على ارض الواقع ربما يكون مش بيقابل نفس هذه الطموحات. فتحدث على انه اذا كان في غرض الفقر كان الغرض خفض معدلات الفقر والجوع في القاره بنسبه 30%، الا انه المتحقق هو وضع عدد من برامج التغذيه وبعض المجموعات التطوعيه اللي بدات تعمل في مجال فكره محاربه الجوع والفقر في بعض الدول، الا ان النتائج المتحققه لم تكن على نفس مستوى الامال الطموحه اللي كانت مرسومه، الا انه القاره في سبيلها او في اطارها انها بتعمل على هذا الامر. بتحدث ايضا على بعض الاراء الخاصه بفكره تحرير التجاره، الاراء الخاصه بفكره تحسين الاداء الاقتصادي لعدد من الدول، تحدث عن برامج اسكات البنادق او فكره احلال السلم والامن في القاره الافريقيه، وذكر ان كوفيد 19 عندما جاء ايضا اثر على القاره الافريقيه مثل تعثر عدد كبير من طموحات القاره اللي كانت مرسومه في اجنده 2060. فبدأ عشان يحدد لنا كيف أن كوفيد 19 يمثل أحد التحديات اللي بتواجه القارة، فذكر أين يقع كوفيد 19 في القارة الإفريقية. فقال إنه عمل لنا جدول زي ما عرض أمام حضراتكم. هذا الجدول كان فيه أعلى 5 دول إفريقية وأقل 5 دول إفريقية وفقا لمعدلات الإصابة اللي كانت موجودة. طبعا كان أعلى 5 دول جنوب أفريقيا، نيجيريا، غانا، الجزائر والكاميرون. ذكر إنه عدد الحالات والحالات اللي تم شفائها والحالات اللي لسه مريضة والحالات اللي حدث ليها تحول من إيجابي إلى سلبي، كل دوت تم ذكره في الجداول المرفقة في العرض الخاص بسيادته. بعد كده عرض أقل 5 دول منهم بروندي، إريتريا، ليسوتو، ولكنه أشار إلى نقطة غاية في الأهمية. قال إنه لا ينبغي الارتكان إلى مثل هذا الأمر أو الاطمئنان إلى مثل هذه النتائج، خاصة أن ما تعودنا عليه من الحالات اللي حصلت في إيطاليا، في أمريكا، في المملكة المتحدة أو بريطانيا، إنه عدد هذه الحالات كان بيبدأ في في البداية بمعدلات بسيطة، ثم بعد ذلك بتبتدي المعدلات في التصاعد. بدأ يقول أو يتحدث عن كيف تعامل الاتحاد الافريقي وكيف تعاملت القارة الافريقية مع كوفيد 19، وقال انه مش هيتعامل مع الامر بشكل اقليمي، بمعنى انه مش هيبص لكل تجارب الاتحاد الافريقي في مثل هذا الشان، ولكنه سيستعرض التجربه الخاصه بجنوب افريقيا، لانه زي ما اشرنا في البدء هي من اعلى الحالات، تقريبا 43% من اجمالي حالات القاره الافريقيه في جنوب افريقيا. فذكر انه بالنسبه للحاله بتاعه جنوب افريقيا مثل هذا الوباء بالنسبه ليها تحدي على موارد الدوله، لانه كان من المطلوب او من الدروس المستفاده هي فكره اصلاح الجهاز الصحي او اصلاح منظومه الصحه في هذه الدوله وتخصيص عدد كبير جدا من الموارد، وربما هذا من ضمن التحديات اللي هتعاني منها غالبيه الدول الافريقيه، او من ضمن الخطط اللي ينبغي العمل عليها في اطار الاتحاد الافريقي، الا وهي فكره ان يتم تخصيص الموارد لا للتنميه ولا للبرامج الطموحه اللي كانت موضوعه في السابق، ولكن لمواجهه القصور الموجود في الجهاز الصحي. فذكر انه في جنوب افريقيا، في القاره الافريقيه وهي تعاني من 35 مليون حاله، بتعاني من 88% اقل من 60 سنه تعرضوا للوفاه ده، فكان لابد من الدوله ان هي تعالج هذا الاثر السلبي، فقامت بعمل استراتيجيات وخطط لتصليح الجهاز الصحي. بدات تتحدث عن توفير الموارد البشريه وتوفير الادوات المطلوبه، وذكر في اطار الجداول المرفقه فكره الادوات المستخدمه للتنفس، وفكره الادوات المستخدمه في وحدات العنايه، وفكره الموارد البشريه، وايضا عنصر التدريب بالنسبه للعنصر البشري. وذكر انه من ضمن الدروس او من ضمن التاثيرات لكوفيد 19 على اجنده الاتحاد الافريقي انه اصبح القطاع الصحي وتحسين القطاع الصحي من ضمن الامور الاساسيه بالنسبه للدول الافريقيه وعلى الاتحاد الافريقي العمل بها. وحينما تحدث عن هذا يعني اثار كده الى فكره انه اذا كان الاتحاد الافريقي يعاني في عديد من مشروعاته بفكره الموارد وما الى ذلك، فاذا كان القطاع الصحي يحتاج الى ضروره دعمه واصلاحه، فبالتالي من ضمن الامور اللي هتاخد الصداره في اجنده الاتحاد الافريقي في القادم هو هيكون الامر الصحي. بعد ذلك تحول الى الاثر الاقتصادي او اثر كوفيد 19 على الاقتصادات الافريقيه، وقاطعنا دكتور جوزيف كي يتمكن من التقاط بعض الانفاس لاستكمال محاضرته الممتعه. So Dr. Joseph, thank you very much, and you can proceed the economic impact of COVID-19 on African Union. Will you proceed, Dr. Joseph? Do you hear me? Please, doctor, if you hear me, unmute, press unmute.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Welcome
yeah, back. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Earlier on, I was speaking about how the COVID pandemic has affected or is estimated to affect the African economy. So what is anticipated or what is expected is that the economy of Africa will slow down by anything between -2.1 and -5.1% during 2020. So because business is closed or at least operating at far below capacity because of the lockdown, sub-Saharan economies anticipate losses of between 37 billion American dollars and 79 billion American dollars worth of losses in output during the course of 2020. I think this is not unexpected, especially if all industries, save for those that produce essential products or offer essential services, are closed. So that is normal and does not need rocket science. And also, agricultural production is expected to contract by between 2.6% and 7%, which actually poses a threat to Africa's food security. And I think one of the aspirations or one of the priorities is to provide food to the people of Africa. And if agriculture is slowing down, then obviously that cannot be avoided. Of course, we know that in some countries, farmers have been allowed to go to work, but again, you're looking at the entire value chain to say if the farmer produces whatever crop or animal that they produce, their value system is affected because the retailer will not be available to buy that produce and on sell. So that actually affects the entire value system. Can I please have the next slide? Next slide, please. Thank you. So how has the African Union responded to this COVID-19 pandemic? Obviously, one would have expected the African Union to make some response of some sort to the pandemic. What they've done is that they have gone on to the public to raise funds, funds which are meant to strengthen the continental response to COVID-19, and in the same vein to mitigate the socio-economic and the humanitarian impact on African populations. But what we gather is that the fund that has been motivated or raised for this particular purpose is far short of what is required by Africa in order to fight this pandemic. For instance, on Africa Day, which is on the 25th of May, there was a call to raise approximately $1 million US, which is intended for the moderation and amelioration of the COVID-19 problem. But that's that's only a drop in an ocean for what it takes to deal with this particular kind of pandemic, given its magnitude. Next slide, please. Now, after previous slide, after having looked at the response of the African Union, we also are aware that the World Health Organization has come to the party with some kind of support to Africa through the World Health Organization Africa region by providing technical aid to countries in their respective health departments, and also the World Health Organization has provided crucial medical equipment because most of the countries were actually not prepared for this pandemic, and you will know that for equipment such as respirators, ventilators, these kind of equipment were not used commonly in hospitals. But when this pandemic swept across the world, suddenly everybody was looking for a ventilator. Suddenly everybody was looking for a mask. Suddenly everybody is looking for sanitizers, as the case may be. So the World Health Organization came to the party and provided support, trained more than 25,000 health workers, and also it is on record that more than 420 shipments of key equipment actually found home on the African continent. Next slide, please. Thank you. At country level, we also are aware that countries have done a great deal of work trying to invest in the fight against the pandemic. Data is not readily available for all of what every country did in Africa, But I have again decided to use a country specific response using South Africa as a case study for the same reasons I alluded to earlier on, that South Africa is home to more than half of the of all of Africa's COVID cases. So as immediately after the coronavirus was identified in South Africa, and South Africa declared the COVID-19 pandemic a national disaster and was followed up by a lockdown on the 26th of March at high alert level 5. There are five stages of alertness in South Africa, which is level 1, 2, 3, up to 5, where 5 is the most stringent level, where no one gets out of the house. There's curfew. People have to maintain distancing, social distancing, sanitize, and all those other regulations that come along with managing the COVID-19 pandemic. Beyond that, the government of South Africa induced 500 billion rand, which is the equivalent of approximately 300 million US dollars, in the form of a stimulus package for social relief and economic support. I think, having noticed that nobody would be going to work, business would be at a standstill, government needed to kind of cushion businesses and individuals alike, because you will know that some in Africa, most of our people are employed informally. They run their own micro enterprises. So if the greater business sphere is closed, it means they have got no income, and that translates to the reduced livelihood of households. So to ameliorate that situation, the government injected 500 billion rand, or the rand is the domestic currency for South Africa, but its equivalent, the equivalent injection is 300 million US dollars. Furthermore, the government also induced the equivalent of 500 million rand, which is approximately 30 billion US dollars, in what it calls the Solidarity Fund, which is again to support the small to medium enterprises specifically. And there are some institutional responses in the form of the Industrial Development Corporation and the Department of Trade and Industry that also put together an equivalent of 175 million US dollars for supporting distressed businesses and for the purchase of essential supplies, such as especially the personal protecting equipment and related stuff. After all that, since March to this day, there have been some improvements in the awareness of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think what government did was it emphasized a great deal on putting the infrastructure in place to deal with the disease. That's why we still, despite that, we're sitting at just under 300,000 cases. The number of casualties remains at just under 4,000, which I think statistically is still not as bad, although of course we appreciate that even the loss of one person is equally bad. So we now sit on high alert level 3 with very stringent conditions. A situation that was reviewed recently, I think as recently as Sunday, when the president announced further regulations in order to tighten people's behaviors during the high alert level 3. So that's how South Africa has responded to the COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm sure that most of the other countries would have done that already. That's why we have got only South Africa having cases that have shot through the roof. And so the other countries, as you have seen, Ghana, Nigeria, and Cameroon, they're all below 40,000 in terms of reported cases. So let's move on to the next slide. This far I have presented to you what challenges Africa has been experiencing since time immemorial, through to the formation of the Organization of African Unity, to its transition to the African Union, and to the development of the organization, to the African Union Agenda 2063, and of course zeroed in on the 10-year plan for the Agenda 2063, and through to the COVID-19 pandemic as it set foot on the African continent. Now, the question is the 10-year plan that was set by the African Union Agenda 2063 achievable? You will have seen that in the plan, there's been, the plan is, it includes reduction of hunger, reduction of poverty, reduction of unemployment, silencing of guns, and so forth and so on. And then there are some specific key projects that were put on the table to be completed in the 10 years of the first 10-year plan. The question is, are all these achievable? My response to that would be that they are not entirely achievable. There are some serious challenges, as we've noticed. Some of them are fiscal in nature, others are political in nature, others are economic. And so to achieve those objectives or those targets is quite a mammoth task. And I think if we speak to the 10 key projects that make part of the first 10-year plan, you look at, say, the introduction of the continental free trade area. That, I think, we need to applaud Africa for having achieved it, because it was something that needed to be done in order to enhance the trade across countries in Africa, and for that part, I think it would be, we need to give credit where it is deserved. Now, moving on to the other key project, which is the introduction of an African passport and the free movement of people. Again, we are aware that there are some preliminary discussions and perhaps tests of the African passport. This passport is, as far as I am aware, it is there, but it is being used by diplomats or people at that level. It is not yet available to the general public. How long it's going to take for that to happen, it is not known. That information is not quite readily available. But again, we need to at least appreciate the fact that some strides have been made to make this dream a reality. Again, we hope that it becomes a reality, generality of the African population, so to speak. Now, speaking to the Ingadem project, this project is very important for Africa because Africa is predominantly an agro-based economy, and to complete this project would mean that a lot of agri-based projects would take off, and then that would actually improve the agricultural output, which we so dearly need. And if by transmission we're looking at reducing the level of unemployment, agriculture is one of the sectors that actually contributes a lot to the reduction of unemployment. And in the same vein, agriculture actually weighs heavily in the reduction of hunger and poverty. And I think if I refer you back to aspiration number 1, it speaks about issues around the eradication of hunger and the reduction of unemployment. And the agricultural sector is one such sector that can help a great deal in achieving that particular objective. And the Ingadem project is one such project. Unfortunately, this project is not complete. Has not yet seen any real movement in terms of its operationalization. And one hopes that as we move into the second 10-year plan, which is around the corner, by the way, because we are now in 2020. The first 10-year plan ends in 2023. So if we're talking of the second 10-year plan, we are looking at, say, the period 2024 and beyond. So that for me is not does not represent progress. The next item, which is silencing the guns. We still sit here with a big problem regarding the silencing of guns. We know that we sit with some parts of Africa that are still at war, and again, we still have a long way to go to eradicate the prevalence of guns and gun-related issues on the continent. Then the introduction of the high-speed train, this again, much as it would have been most welcome, there is very slow progress in this area. I know for a fact that here in South Africa, we've got a bullet train, but even then, it only services one province and not in its entirety, but as a very few specific points. So if we would have it across Africa, it would be such a beauty. But to this day, since the beginning of the first 10-year plan, not much progress has been made other than conceptualization. Now, the virtual African university would indeed have been a very brilliant idea to make it happen. For me, being a scholar and an academic in a university that thrives on online teaching and learning, I have that first-hand personal experience of working in a virtual university, and this for me would be a great deal of achievement, because it opens up a lot of opportunities for many learners. We are home to, the University of South Africa is home to approximately 350,000 to 400,000 students at any given point in time, which is quite a huge chunk of enrollment. So if we could have a virtual university for Africa, that would be quite a great achievement, and a university that would probably, that is envisaged to carry a uniform curriculum that would actually iron out the differences in curricula. You know that at this moment, if one was educated in Egypt, for them to work in Ghana, for instance, they'll have to go through a series of processes to make sure that their qualifications are vetted and in order to get their equivalence. So that's a great deal of work to do. And also, finally, the reduction of unemployment and hunger. If we're looking at the 10-year plan, it sought to reduce it still seeks to reduce the level of unemployment and hunger. But up to this point in time, we still have a great deal of unemployment across countries. Member states are still grappling to deal with hunger. And again, I do not see this particular item falling off in the second 10-year plan. So for me, I appreciate the amount of work that governments are doing in dealing with unemployment and dealing with hunger, but I still think that there's a lot more that can be done in order to moderate and ameliorate the levels of unemployment and hunger across Africa. Next slide, please. Thank you. Having said all this, so what then would be the way forward for Africa? These are the next slide or two present my recommendations based on the analysis of what was planned to be achieved in the 10-year period 2023, and what has been done and what has not been done. So in my view, Agenda 2063 is such a colossal project And by this I mean that it is such a huge project in itself. Remember that it represents the aspirations of all the member states of the Africa Union Commission, which essentially means all the countries in Africa. So it's something that we need to be passionate about, and therefore we also need to be, when we put together some plans, we need to adhere to them and stick to them, and be very religious to the implementation of the plans. So, in speaking to that, I see the 10-year plans as too long, considering that often the people that put together those the Agenda 2063 are heads of states and their representatives. And if we're looking at heads of states, they ordinarily are elected into power for 5-year periods. And for me, I would like to suggest that, or propose that all the plans be tied to the term of office of the presidents of the respective member states, so that they can also account on the progress or lack of progress of the 10-year plan or 5-year plan, as the case may be, in line with their term of office. Otherwise, people are, these are representatives of countries may make commitments for which they know they will not be there to account for. I'm thinking now of if you're looking at, say, just the Agenda 2063 itself, it's a 50-year plan. How many of us will still be in this world 50 years from 2063? Perhaps if you knock off 10 years now, there are still 40 years to go. I am not going to be in this world 40 years from now. I'm thinking which of the presidents will be in this world 40 years from now, and given the average age of the African head of state, I do not see any one of them being here after 40 years. Again, member states must be realistic and not overcommit nor overpromise. The Agenda 2063 is such a brilliant framework, but I doubt if the capacity issues were taken into account conclusively, because there are some of the projects that could have been put aside for some other time. But to put them in the 10-year plan for me is not something that is that carries a lot of merit. Again, the most urgent and priority areas be tackled first. So, in other words, of all the projects that are in the 10-year plan, focus should have been paid, attention should have been paid to projects that deal with hunger, unemployment, education, health, peace, and security. These are issues that actually we deal with every day of our lives. Day in, day out, people have to go to bed after dinner, or people have to have lunch, people have to eat. People need to work, people need to earn an income. From that income, people will be able to educate their children. People need good health, and we cannot afford incessant wars, perpetual wars in Africa. That is not good for us. So we need to, as we revisit the second 10-year plan, these are some of the issues that we need to pay attention to and devote all our financial and material resources towards. And then my other recommendation is that we need an aggressive awareness campaign of the Africa Union Agenda 2063. As far as I'm concerned, the Agenda 2063 is not known in Africa. It is only a very few people that have been privileged to bump into this particular instrument. Yet the framework in itself is a very brilliant piece of work that was put together. Only that it's not being used. When as the University of South Africa, we tested it. We were invited to in fact, we responded to an invitation by the Africa Union Commission to all universities across Africa for partnership in the implementation of the Africa Union Agenda 2063. Then we realized that we were the only university that responded to the call. And as we then adopted it, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the Africa Union Commission, a 5-year MOA, and then we decided to go to Africa to start recruiting other scholars in order to kind of increase the capacity of the research team that we decided to create in order to see how best we can contribute to the operationalization of the Africa Union Agenda 2063. Not many people are familiar with this. We need to start teaching most of what is contained in the Agenda 2063. Somehow our respective curricula should begin to embed some of the aspects of what is contained in this instrument, because it's only that will contribute to the reduction of some of the problems that we encounter every now and then. Next slide, please.
Okay, Bill.
I think it will be the last one.
No.
The last. Hello?
Yeah, yes, the last one, Prof. The last one.
Yeah, thank you. Now, again, what I believe should be done here is that the regional economic commissioners who are representatives of our regions on the implementation of this Agenda 2063 need to frequently account to their regional political bodies. In other words, they should tell people what is happening or what is not happening insofar as the implementation of the Africa Union Agenda 2063 is concerned. What developmental projects are taking place, what developmental projects are not taking place, what are the constraints that they're facing, what kind of support is needed, and so forth and so on. These we need to know. At this moment, if you ask a person from the street what they know about the Agenda 2063, not many people give you good answers. Okay, and then I also believe that the African Union needs to invest in research in order to inform policy direction. Currently, I can hypothesize that most policies are actually not informed by scientific studies, and most of them are perhaps stamp-sagged, and that's why we end up having some kind of institutional rigidities, some institutional failures, and I would like to emphasize the fact that we do have a lot of people that can support the Africa Union in many respects. So research must be the order of the day for the Africa Union Commission. Again, the Africa Union needs to strengthen partnerships, including partnerships with universities, in order to leverage on the wealth of expertise residing in these institutions of higher learning. I think that we at the University of South Africa have tried this. We actually, again, I indicated that we have got a memorandum of understanding with the AU. It expired last year in October. We are busy renewing it for the second term. But we have also, on the basis of that memorandum of understanding, gone to look for other scholars to collaborate with, which we are doing up to now. And so we think that once the AU gets into such partnerships and others, we can actually begin to see some movement of some sort. If that does not happen, we then have some kind of uninformed decisions being made. Finally, I would like to say that the need for regional integration, free movement of labor, and the African passport, for me, would go a long way in helping our people to find business opportunities and employment opportunities across Africa. You will know that some African countries are more developed than others. Some countries are more educated than others. Some countries have got more resources than others. So we can use our respective comparative advantages to deal with the problems that cut across Africa. And I think that this, for me, should be an important aspect. On this particular note, I would like to thank you very much for listening. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Professor Joseph.
Thank you,
It's my pleasure.
Valuable lecture, and we also share your hopes that Africa become one day the Africa dream, and solving all these issues which you are highlighting or giving us a good brief about these problems that our continent are facing nowadays. Please give me a few minutes to translate the third part of your lecture to the our audience, and after that we will open the floor to the comments and questions. تحدث دكتور جوزيف في الجزء الثالث من محاضرته عن كيف سيؤثر الوباء أو كوفيد-19 على معدلات الاقتصاد في إفريقيا، فحدد عدد من المؤشرات وذكر التأثير الذي يمكن أن يحدث في المستقبل انطلاقا من بعض الإشارات أو المتغيرات اللي بدأت تظهر بالفعل منذ أن دعم هذا الوباء العالم. فتحدث عن انه الانتاج الزراعي من المتوقع ان يتاثر بالانخفاض بمعدل من 2.6% ل 7%. قال ربما يؤدي تباطؤ الانتاج الزراعي نتيجه الاصابات ونتيجه تدهور الحاله الصحيه الى ازمه غذاء علينا ان نتعامل معها. ذكر انه المؤشرات الاقتصاديه الخطره التي تنبئ عنها الازمه في الوقت الحالي بتضع على الاتحاد الافريقي عبء أن يتحرك رغبة منه أولا في تقوية دور الدول الإفريقية في مواجهة مثل هذا الوباء، اثنين تقليل الأثر السلبي للوباء على الصعيد الاقتصادي والاجتماعي للقارة. استعرض دكتور بعد ذلك عدد من الجهود اللي بتقوم بها منظمة الصحة العالمية من تقديم الدعم للدول الإفريقية من النواحي اللوجستية وتقديم بعض الموارد والمعدات، بعض الاستشارات، بعض النصائح الطبية، وبعض العمالة المدربة أو الموارد البشرية المدربة. تحدث أيضا الدكتور عن حالة جنوب أفريقيا على نحو خاص باستعراض كيف تطور الأمر في حالة جنوب أفريقيا بإعلان جنوب أفريقيا حادث أن ما تشهده في حالة الوباء هو كارثة قومية. استدعت منها في مارس أن يتم الإغلاق التام. وصف الأمر ده بأنه كان المستوى هو المستوى الخامس في جنوب أفريقيا نتيجة ارتفاع عدد الإصابات. بيذكر أنه نتيجة الإجراءات التي اتخذتها جنوب أفريقيا إلى الآن أصبح المستوى هو المستوى الثالث وليس الخامس. ثم بعد ذلك تساءل هل الأجندة 2063 الطموحة من الممكن أن يتم تحققها أو تحقيق ما فيها، فذكر انه اجابته هتستند الى ما تم انجازه بين هذه الاجنده وما تم الارجاء او عجزت الدول الافريقيه عن الانجاز، وبالتالي استعرض باهم المحاور السبع للاجنده وذكر انه كل محور من هذه المحاور يواجه تحديات خاصة بالدول الإفريقية، وذلك وتيرة هذه التحديات مع وجود الوباء أو وجود كوفيد-19. فذكر على سبيل المثال أنه حلم المنطقة التجارة الحرة، حلم جواز السفر الموحد بالنسبة للدول الإفريقية، يضع كوفيد-19 تحدي على مثل هذه الأمور نتيجة حالة الفساد التي شهدها العالم، ولكن أيضا داخل إفريقيا نحن نعاني من مشكلات من السابق تحتاج إلى التعامل معها وعلاجها كي تظهر هذه الطموحات باعتبارها مشروعات واستراتيجيات واقعية. تحدث أيضا عن مشكلة الجامعات الافتراضية أو الفيرتشوال يونيفرسيتيز، وذكر أن مشكلتها في أفريقيا ليست فقط كوفيد-19 ولكن أيضا فكرة الانفراستراكشر أو البنية التحتية التي تعاني من تدهورها العديد من الدول الإفريقية. تحدث عن سد إنجا، وكيف أن سد إنجا ومبادرة إسقاط البنادق تحتاج إلى دعم مالي ودعم إرادي سياسي أكثر من المتاح حاليا. فبعيدا عن تأثيرات كوفيد-19 تعاني هذه الطموحات برضو من التراجع أو تحتاج إلى النظر إليه. ذكر الدكتور بعد ذلك أن من وجهة نظري أن الهدف الأساسي الذي ينبغي على الاتحاد الافريقي أن يسعى إليه هو تقليل معدلات البطالة ومعدلات الجوع في أفريقيا. وذكر أن وضع الاتحاد الافريقي لخطه او استراتيجيه لمده 10 سنوات فقط لتحقيق مثل هذا الامر من وجهه نظري هو امر طموح غايه في الطموح، لانه هذه الامور علاجها في افريقيا يحتاج من وجهه نظري الى 10 سنوات اخرى وربما اكثر. فبالتالي بعض الاهداف التي وضعت في استراتيجيه 2063 او اجنده 2063 هي طموحه جدا وتحتاج الى اكثر من المده الزمنيه المحدده لها من الدول الاعضاء. انتهى بعد ذلك بعدد من التوصيات غايه في الاهميه التي جاء على راسها ومن اهمها أن وفقا لتوصياته بناء على ما تم بحثه وما تم إنجازه في خطط الاتحاد الافريقي بأنه يرى أن هذه الأجندة تمثل مشروعا ضخما وهو مشروعا قاريا تعبر عن طموحات الدول الأعضاء. لكن لكي نتحدث عن خطط واستراتيجيات قابلة للتطبيق على أرض الواقع ينبغي أن نتحدث عن مشروعات أو استراتيجيات خمسية 5 years plans او 5 year strategies، مش خطط توضع لمده 10 سنوات، لانه بيرى ان اهداف ال10 سنوات هي طويله جدا على ان يتم تحقيقها في 10 سنوات، فالافضل هي خطط خمسيه تحدد فيها خطوات على سبيل التحديد ونقاط صغيره، وتحتاج الدول في صياغتها الى ان تكون واقعيه اكثر من البنود التي تم وضعها في الاستراتيجيه. ذكر ايضا ان هناك قطاعات ينبغي إيلائها اهميه واولويه قصوى، منها على سبيل المثال كما ذكر واكد في اكثر من موضع داخل المحاضره الجوع، البطاله، التعليم، الصحه، ثم السلام والامن. بنحتاج الى وعي كامل بالاجنده، وبالتالي مقترح ان يتم فتح الباب للسكولرشيب والانترشيب بين الجامعات المختلفه على صعيد القاره الافريقيه للعمل على التوعيه وللعمل على وضع برامج للتنفيذ ووضعها محل التنفيذ الواقعي. ايضا تحدث عن ضروره تفعيل التكامل الاقتصادي، تحدث عن فكره الشراكه التي يمكن ان تحدث ما بين الدول الافريقيه، ايضا تحدث على اهميه ان يتم وضع خطه شراكه ما بين الاتحاد الافريقي وما بين الجامعات في مختلف انحاء القاره، وذكر انه بالفعل هناك مذكره تفاهم موقعه حاليا وبيسعوا لتجديدها ما بين الجامعات في جنوب افريقيا وما بين الاتحاد الافريقي بخصوص فكره الشراكه ما بين الاتحاد والجامعات ومراكز البحث ومراكز الفكر على كي يتم حل المشكلات. بيرى ان الشراكه اهميتها هي تقديم رؤى واقعيه وحلول واقعيه لعلاج المشكلات المستعصيه والطموحه ايضا في الخطط التي تم وضعها في الاستراتيجيه، والتي من بينها فكره الجواز الموحد. فذكر على سبيل المثال ان امكانيه تحقيق حلم وجود جواز افريقي موحد او وان افريكان باسبورت، انا بحاول اترجم كي يتابعنا دكتور جوزيف، هي فكره ان يتم اتاحه فرص عمل وحياه لجميع الافارقه داخل البلدان الافريقيه. فده متطلب اساسي first requirement علشان نتحقق من خلاله فكره ان يكون هناك فكره الحريه في الانتقال وفكره جواز السفر الموحد. في الأخير ويرى أن هناك الكثير والكثير ينبغي العمل عليه، ينبغي تضافر مراكز البحوث مع المنظمة القارية للاتحاد الافريقي علشان يتم وضع خطط أكثر واقعية بعيدا عن صياغات الأحلام. نتفق نختلف، هذه الأحلام تمثل رؤيتنا لأفريقيا غدا، ولكن كوفيد-19 أثبت في القارة الإفريقية أن هناك تحديات ينبغي النظر إليها بواقعية، وأن هناك قطاعات ينبغي النظر إليها في مقام أولي أكثر من قطاعات أخرى. فأصبح على سبيل المثال قطاع البطالة أو التشغيل وقطاع الصحي أو القطاع الصحي من القطاعات التي ينبغي العمل عليها وينبغي وضعها في أولوية برامج الاتحاد الافريقي. خالص وجزيل الشكر على هذا العرض الوافي. خالص وجزيل الشكر على هذا العرض المتمكن. لدي من المداخلات كما أرى من الشات للحضور رغبة في التعقيب وسؤال خاص بأثر الفساد على الجهود. هنتقل لترجمة الأمرين لدكتور جوزيف، وهيكون بالتعقيب في البدء ثم السؤال. التعقيب كان من دكتورة إيمان، والتساؤل كان من دكتور خليل جمل. Dr. Joseph, we are thanking you very much for the valuable information and this useful lecture. Thank you very much. We appreciate your effort, we appreciate your point of view. This distinguishable recommendations and information raises a lot of questions and comments. For me, for myself, we are suffering in studying the African context from the high expectations. That's when we are reading the aims, the target of the religion and integration initiatives, we find that we are dreaming about being an unity or being one continent. But actually, the fact or the reality tell us that we're facing a lot of contradiction, obstacles, challenges in the political field, in the economic field, and in social field. We need to solve first in order to achieve this project. So we have not to dream about being political unity, but before it, try to achieve prosperity and try to achieve happiness for the African people first, and the people will achieve all the cooperation process after they achieving their needs from food and from being in safe environments. So actually, I agree with you that we are facing a lot of problem, and COVID-19 not the only obstacle the Africa faces, because we have our own problem, and COVID just one of the new challenges. As you mentioned, that Africa witnessing a lot of pandemics or epidemics before, disease like Ebola and AIDS and so on. And this diseases or pandemics, the continents are dealt with, but there are still a lot of problems we are needing in the economic, especially in the economic and trade field, in order to achieve cooperation. We have two comments. One from Dr. Iman. Dr. Iman want to make a voice comment. Is Dr. Iman with us?
Hello, I am with you. Doctor, I am with you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Joseph, thank you for this valuable lecture. It is more than excellent. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Can you still hear me? You are hearing me?
Please go ahead.
My voice is clear or not clear?
Yes, your voice, Dr. Iman, is clear.
Okay, thank you very much. I am happy to be with you, and thank you for this valuable lecture. I hope you will have a long life to achieve all your dreams regarding or towards Africa. Also, I think I have the same, because I visited Nigeria 2 times, and I saw some problems like tropical diseases. Already I attached my book related to tropical diseases as a scientific gift to all audience. I visited Nigeria 2 times. First time in a conference, second time in a fellowship for about 3 months. Really, most of people looking towards Africa as a source of disease, but it is not as a fact. Maybe we can move Africa to be a source of drugs. You are speaking about virtual university, and already we have many experts, scientific experts, and many researchers inside Africa, in Nigeria, in Egypt. We have a lot of scientists and researchers, but unfortunately, other people looking to Africa as a source of diseases, especially tropical diseases like neglected tropical diseases and other tropical diseases. But during my visit, I tested some of my Egyptian samples, some of Egyptian medicinal plants against filariae. Already I have excellent results. So I think we need to focus on Africa as a source of drugs. For example, Nigeria has savanna and many medicinal, many medicinal plants. Also, Egypt is the same. So we need to focus on investment in drugs. We need to invest using medicinal plants of Africa, African medicinal plants. I think in Africa we have different nature. We have hot places, and we have many plants containing many active and secondary metabolites. These plants can be used as a source of drugs. I think if we will focus on it, Africa will be rich. Africa is not poor. I think the poor place is a place is without green. Green color equal a huge amount of money, but we are not focusing on this point. So I wanted to confirm your speech regarding awareness, regarding education. We need to focus on education in Africa and awareness. We need something like network, something like, as you said before, a virtual university in Africa, because really they are in a real need. Nigeria, for example, contains many immigrants from Niger and from different places. They are very, very poor. But I think when we are investing using savanna and medicinal plants as a source of drugs, I think we will be not poor. Also in Egypt, we have many medicinal plants. If we will use these plants as a source of money, as a source of drugs, we will not be poor. I think, as you said before, and as all of us are know, we already have corruption in everywhere of Africa. There is a corruption, little or big. It is not an important issue, but we can travel by science from place to place. Investment can be done in the area of science and in the area of drug. We can distribute science as online, in online courses. Already I am doing this. I have a scientific groups. These groups focused on Asia and Africa. We have many volunteers, we have many researchers. If you will build your virtual university, you will find many volunteers, many researchers in different areas and different aspects of science. For example, in the area of medicinal plants, I love volunteering work inside Asia and inside Africa, because this is our continent. So I appreciate you personally for your valuable and very, very great dreams. I'll ask Allah for you long life to achieve your valuable dreams. Really, it is not only theoretical lecture, but I touch your dreams inside your speech. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Prof. Dr. Hisham. Thank you, Prof. Dr. Dalia. Thank you very much. And your lecture is highly appreciated, and good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the feedback. I appreciate it. And I think I wish you well with all the work that you are doing with medicinal plants. I just got reminded of the case of Madagascar, particularly during this COVID-19 issue, where they came up with some medicine of some sort that they said could cure or at least respond to COVID-19. And perhaps in my own thinking, because this medicine is coming from Africa, it was not treated with the respect that I think it deserves. Now we hear cases of some experiments having been conducted in the UK at Oxford University. Recently we hear of some medicine that is coming from Russia and receiving some kind of attention because perhaps with some bias, I would think that because they're not from Africa. So we need to do a great deal of work to generate some kind of confidence amongst ourselves first, and then we can then push for global confidence for all our products and for all our effort in all of what we do. So otherwise, I wish you well in your studies of medicinal plants, and keep going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
كان عندنا كمان تساؤل من البروفيسور دكتور هاشم. اتفضل.
شكرا جزيلا دكتورة نادية. Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Victor, about the. Thank you, Prof. Joseph, about this lecture. I have a question for you, but I will take, but I will talk Arabic. دكتورة نادية، عفوا تساؤلي إلى البروف جوزيف يتعلق يعني حول تجربة جنوب أفريقيا وتحديدا في مجال اختصاص البروف فيما يتعلق بالتعليم. تعرفون أنه الآن هذا الفيروس استدعى أنه الانتقال من في مجال التعليم الأكاديمي المباشر إلى تعليم عن بعد، ربما سيعطي مستقبلا رافعة قوية إلى هذا النوع من التعليم. فأقول أنه جنوب أفريقيا وتحديدا التعليم في جنوب أفريقيا ماذا أضاف وماذا أخذ أو ما تأثير، نعرف التأثير، ما هي تأثيرات كوفيد-19 على التعليم فيما يتعلق بمجال التواصل مع الطلبة وتقديم المعلومة لهم. شكرا جزيلا.
Dr. Joseph, Dr. Hashim want to know the experience of South African education is a very distinguishable experience. So what is the impact of the COVID-19 on the educational process in South Africa? How they are changing the way you are communicating with your students, how the material or the subjects are changing, how the effectiveness of the educational process affected by the COVID-19. Especially we are knowing that the experience of education in South Africa is a very successful one.
Oh, thank you very much, Doctor. I think first of all, when the country went into lockdown, the whole school system also got closed. So all schools were closed, all universities were closed. I come from a university that did not close. I think we are one of the very few that could still function virtually, as I indicated earlier on. So most of the universities and schools alike realized that if anything, virtual learning was the way to go. So most of the institutions started going into the virtual space, slowly but surely. I think that there has been participation on the online space insofar as that teaching and learning is concerned, and research as well. But when we realized that the lockdown was going to be on us for quite some time, the extent of the participation on virtual learning increased. More and more institutions began to participate in that space, including preschool education, primary school education, high school across the hierarchy. So that's how the government of South Africa has actually responded to the COVID-19 pandemic insofar as education is concerned. And then what we have now begun to see is that because government is actually realized that the pandemic or the disease is here with us for some time to come, and that some sectors of society and the economy need to start reopening, schools have started reopening on a piecemeal basis. In other words, we have schools that have started, say, grade 7 students to school, high students also been school, but not academic year. So that attempt students resuming the academic year. So that's how is attempting to save the academic year. It meant that all of what has been done during this year will have to go to waste. Thank you.
Okay, الدكتور بيقول إنه حالة جنوب
perhaps in addition to that.
نتيجة ارتفاع المعدلات في جنوب أفريقيا فحدث نوع من الإغلاق، فترتب عليه إن كافة المدارس اشتغلت بنظام التعليم عن بعد، حتى المدارس في المراحل الابتدائية والمراحل الإعدادية، المراحل الأساسية تعاملت بنفس الأسلوب، حتى مراكز البحوث أيضا تعاملت بذات الأسلوب، وبدأ الأمر يتم التخفيف فيه بشكل تدريجي، ولكن حتى الآن ما تزال الآلية المستخدمة هي فكرة التعليم الإلكتروني، وبالتالي كثير من الجامعات كمان بدأت إنها تعتمد هذا الأسلوب، وبالتالي حدث نوع من التكالب أو نوع من الضغط على الفضاء الإلكتروني في جنوب إفريقيا. حتى هو بيذكر إن مثل هذا الأمر مثل ما يحدث في غالبية الدول اللي تبعت إجراءات الإغلاق يعني، ولكنهم بخطوات تدريجية بدأوا يعملوا عملية التخفيف، إلا أن الأمر ما زال عن بعد أو ما زال إلكترونيا فقط. لدينا دكتور جوزيف، لو حضرتك Hello, Dr. If you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
We have two questions. One of them discussing the relation between corruption and the achieving of the EU agenda inspired or ambitious goals. Did the corruption, which is spread all over the African continent, will affect the effort of the African Union or not?
Thank you very much for that question, and I think that corruption is one of the aspects of Africa Union that 2063 seeks to address. What is not a secret is that our governments, or rather our society, is characterized by high levels of corruption across Africa, and so it is not divorced to what the Africa Union Agenda 2063 seeks to achieve. For instance, I spoke about the projects that are on the table that need to be undertaken. The Ingadem project, for instance. These projects, you know, that are financed through some government initiatives of some sort, and obviously, where funds are involved, we know that funds always get misdirected to appropriate uses, and that obviously will affect the implementation of all these projects that we seek to achieve. So we cannot shy away the fact that we need to deal with corruption and deal with it decisively, and now is the time.
The idea is clear. دكتور جوزيف بيذكر انه بالتاكيد هناك علاقه ما بين الفساد وما بين تطبيق اهداف وطموحات الاجنده، خاصه ان كثير من هذه الاهداف يحتاج الى موارد، واداره الموارد بتتاثر بالفساد، وبالتالي لا يمكن انكار انه ينبغي علاج الفساد كي يتم تطبيق مثل هذه المقترحات. Dr. Joseph, another question asking about the water security and social peace and development, saying that what is the vision, what is the opinion, the stance of the South Africa government, which is the head of the African Union nowadays, concerning the water issue, like pricing, like the clashes which has happened between Egypt and Ethiopia, like the some initiatives calling that the equitable principle for distribution water and so on. So did the South Africa government put the issue of water or security of water as one of the priorities during the presidency of the EU?
Yeah, well, let me say that South Africa takes to heart the issues around social security, and that's why in my presentation, and particularly the way I presented on South Africa's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, I indicated that approximately 430 million American dollars have been put forward to, partly to deal with the social issues. For instance, government has actually introduced a grant for the unemployed during this particular pandemic, and we know that some of the issues that come to fore would be issues around access to water, access to electricity, and so forth and so on. So it is not uncommon that South Africa would actually intervene and provide guidance on any particular matters that have got to do with the depreciation of social justice or social security for the populace of Africa. So if anything, South Africa as chair of the African Union, I am sure would be on their way to supporting the stabilization of the dispute that you are referring to. Thank you.
Thank you. دكتور جوزيف بيذكر انه دولة جنوب افريقيا بتهتم بفكرة السلام الاجتماعي والتنمية، وبالتالي اثناء رئاستها للاتحاد الافريقي لن تألو جهد انها تجد اي مبادرة تحترم هذا الامر وتحققه، من انها تساند هذا الامر، كما وانها بتحقق اهداف الاجندة اللي بتتوائم مع رغبات الدول الافريقية. Another question from Dr. Lobna, saying that did you see that the challenges facing the African Union, can the African states by its fragile and its weakness can face these challenges, or the African Union need to cooperate with the civil society and NGOs in order to face the challenges coming from the COVID-19 in Africa? Did the African Union face it challenging dealing only with the states? Because the African states, as you know, is some of them are suffering from problems and fragmentation and so on. So we need another alternative or option by relying on the civil society organization.
Yeah, I think that the problem of the COVID-19 problem, like any other, cannot be left to central, to government in all its facets, whether central or provincial, as the case may be. And I think that when we speak of the African Union, we must be aware of the fact that we are talking of an institution that is made up of our respective governments. So it's not like a business entity or a company sitting somewhere. This is all African countries coming together. And so I think that what governments have done this far cannot be enough to deal with the pandemic. And therefore, collaboration with other institutions at all levels, whether they be non-governmental organizations or private sector, is what will carry the day for the continent insofar as this pandemic is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. كان السؤال خاص بانه تعاني الدول الافريقيه من حاله من حالات الهشاشه وضعف الانظمه الصحيه، فهل يجب على الاتحاد الافريقي الاستعانه بمنظمات المجتمع المدني والمنظمات الدوليه؟ فكان رد الدكتور انه حتى الان يتعامل الاتحاد الافريقي مع القاره باعتبارها كل متكامل، وبالتالي التعامل مع الدول او الكيانات الرسميه اللي موجوده فيه بيكون هو المظله الاساسيه، واذا الدول دي استطاعت ان هي تقيم فاعليات داخلها بمنظمات المجتمع المدني، هيكون كل ده في الاخير لصالح القاره الافريقيه. انا امامي الان دكتور هاشم، انتهت التساؤلات والتعقيبات، ف بشكر حضرتك جزيل الشكر، وبشكر المركز العراقي، و خالص تمنياتي بالتوفيق. Thank you very much Dr. Joseph. We run out of questions and comments for your very excellent lecture. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward for another cooperation. Thanks very much. Wishing all the African countries peace and prosperities. And now I'm giving this word to Dr. Professor هاشم العوادي. تفضل يا دكتور.
شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you. I can only say شكرا.
في ختام هذه المحاضرة القيمة التي استعرض فيها الأستاذ الدكتور البروف جوزيف حول جدول أعمال الاتحاد الأفريقي أجندة 2063، نقدم الشكر الجزيل لك يا دكتور. very thank you بروف جوزيف for this lecture. أيضا أتقدم بالشكر الجزيل إلى الدكتورة نادية عبد الفتاح الأستاذة في كلية الدراسات العليا الأفريقية جامعة القاهرة. شكرنا الجزيل لك على هذا الجهد والعناء اللي بذلتيه، وحقيقة أدرت الندوة بطريقة جيدة واستطعت أن تنسقي ما بين المحاضر وما بين الحضور ومداخلاتهم، وكان عرضك هو يعني شكل إضافة نوعية لهذه المحاضرة وحسن الترجمة اللي نستلم احنا حقيقة ردود أفعال المتابعين حولها. أيضا أتقدم بالشكر الجزيل إلى جميع الأخوة والأخوات المتابعين من الباحثين والدارسين لنا، وإن شاء الله تعالى نلتقيكم في نشاط آخر، محاضرة أخرى وندوة أخرى، ولا يسعني في آخر اللقاء إلا أن نقول الحمد لله رب العالمين وشكرا لكم مرة أخرى. شكرا لكم، ونتمنى أن نلتقي على كل خير. أجدد في الختام شكري إلى بروف جوزيف very thank you، وإلى الدكتورة نادية عبد الفتاح very thank you.
خالص الشكر ودعواتي بمزيد من التوفيق والتميز يا فندم. شكرا لحضراتكم. شكرا. Thanks Dr. Joseph.
شكرا
دكتور جوزيف. شكرا. Good night. Very thank you.
Prof. Joseph.